There we go. We're live. Hi, guys.
Hey.
Welcome back, everybody, for the finale of Ahsoka. So I got Ryan here joining me again today. I don't know if you remember him from the last time he was here. He was here after episode 5?
4. Halfway. Did the halfway mark.
Yeah.
And then now the finish. We've reached the finish line. What a great show. I thought it was fantastic. I know some people have had some mixed feelings about certain episodes or the entire thing. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
As a Rebels fan, it's like really, really good. But like trying to look at it from the perspective of somebody who maybe hasn't seen the animated shows, I could see being lost on a few things, but like for the most part they do a pretty good job. Like Star Wars has always been like, here's the good guys, here's the bad guys. You don't really need to know what their motivations are right away to know like, here's who I'm rooting for, here's who I'm not.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean you don't have to like you have to dislike the bad guys either. Star Wars has always been great about that too, like making compelling villains that are cool. And I thought this show was very on point with Star Wars. I didn't like, this is what they needed to do with the sequel trilogy originally.
Yes.
And this type of momentum is what I want to see as like a diehard Star Wars fan. This is the kind of shit that I want to see pushing forward, and Dave Filoni building all this stuff coming together is looking great in my opinion.
Yeah. I really enjoyed the whole series overall, and this finale I thought was fantastic. A lot of action, a lot of heart, I guess.
Yeah.
Some good humor mixed with a good cliffhanger. It wasn't a disappointing
I
one.
fully agree.
There's so many that are just like, oh, seriously? You're ending it there? But this one had a good wrap up, especially with Ezra getting back, which was really nice.
Nice little flip of the script.
Yeah. I did have the issue with him still wearing
Yeah.
his stormtrooper
We
armor
were talking about that. Yeah.
in the shuttle, or not even just in the shuttle, but walking out of the shuttle.
I'm like, I know you're a Jedi, and you can, sense the blaster bolt coming, or maybe like force it out of the way or whatever. But like, why risk getting shot, dude? Or like, why risk like scaring all these people? Like, take the damn helmet off at least.
You gotta admit, it was a cool looking set of armor, though.
It is pretty cool. What they did with the it's gonna bug me, but that ancient like Japanese style of fixing broken pottery with
Yeah, I can't remember what
the
it's
gold.
called. Yeah.
And the way that they did that, and then with like the same sort of idea, but like wrapping the
Bindings.
red bindings to like also fix the cracks. Like I thought that was so interesting, and
One of the
Enoch and all that stuff. Yeah, just
Yeah.
very cool choices of design.
One of the best things for me as far as the Japanese influence goes was when Thrawn called her a Ronin.
Yes, yeah, that was very cool, and it's
Yeah.
also a very fitting description of what she is. And
Yes.
people have been wondering kind of what to call her, and we now have like her title as like or like her no one in universe would call her this, but we all like are kind of calling her like Ahsoka the White now, because she kind of mirrored Gandalf's sort of journey, and they
Yeah.
were very like clear about their influences from Tolkien in this series especially. But yeah, I think it's cool to have like a name for like what her kind of person is. And also Balin gave us another one earlier in the series. Thrawn gave us that, and then Balin gave us Boken Jedi, which again is Japanese influence with the Boken swords, the wooden swords, and we saw in Rebels Sabine and Ezra training with them when they were young and stuff. So yeah, that's cool. Calling them that, like, that they're not like quite properly trained, because I mean, how could when Order 66 happened, Kanan was a kid. So
Yeah.
he only had so much training, he only learned so much at the temple before that happened. So he could only give so much as a teacher to Ezra. So it's a cool like term for that, and cool term for what she's become too, Ronin. That's very cool.
Yeah, so overall, for the series, do you think it was the best out of all the new stuff from Disney as far as series go, excluding the Mandalorian? But like Obi-Wan,
Excluding
Andor,
the Mandalorian, definitely. Not even a
better
question.
than Andor, or just different?
Um,
That's the thing. Because Andor was pretty good.
Everybody has like their things of like what they love about Star Wars, and like I love the like space politics stuff. So I did really enjoy Andor, but I can see like it being a longer series and having more episodes that were less action packed and just more like suspenseful and that sort of thing. I could see like some people not enjoying it as much, even though I think it was a fucking masterpiece. Yeah, I would even say this is better than Andor, though, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I would say this is better than the last season of The Mandalorian, to be honest, as like an overall season of a show. Yeah, I think this was better than. Not that I didn't enjoy that season at all. Like that season was fantastic, but like this was a great show. And again, like maybe I'm a little jaded or whatever, biased or whatever for being a big fan of Rebels, but yeah, they did a great job.
Yep.
I loved all of it.
Yeah, a lot of people have pointed that out, that it's really made for Rebels fans.
Yeah,
And it absolutely is.
it's a love letter to us.
But you can figure out what the hell is going on without too much difficulty, I think. So I don't have a problem with that, honestly. And it gets me to want to watch Rebels now, so good job. That's
They
what
made
should
it
do.
so cut and dry. Like, they're in another galaxy. This bad guy wants to get home. He's still wearing his like almost near perfect, aside from the one tatter or whatever, military uniform from the Empire. Like, it's so cut and dry. Like that. It's like good guy, bad guy, good guy, bad guy. Like even if you didn't watch the show and you don't have this like nuanced view of these characters already, like I thought they did a pretty good job of making everything pretty understandable and like palatable.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
No, I agree with that. BJ says Kensuke Golden Joinery is the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery by mending the areas with breakage with urushi lacquer dusted with and mixed with powdered gold, silver, or platinum. Yes.
Just a really cool design choice.
Yeah.
And having like some of their armor pieces were replaced with like a blackened like version of it.
Yeah. Or gold, like
or
Enoch.
gold.
Enoch had a
Enoch,
gold. Yeah.
And my theory,
Yes.
or
Enoch theory.
I shouldn't claim that. I did see it in like a video, but like I think that Enoch might have been one of the royal guards that Ezra fucked up with the big boulders right before the Chimera left with the Purgle, because that might be why his voice is all messed up. And also, he's speaking a different language. I don't think they just picked up this guy over there. Like, I thought that at first, and I had said that to you, because based on the way he spoke, and like when he told Sabine, die well, I was like, that sounds like something like a local would say. Like, it sounds like something like they're trying to say, like, make it feel like he's from this place or whatever. Like, this is like the way of life here or whatever. But it could also be that he's adapted to that way of life. They've been there 10 years, right? Mm-hmm. So I think he might have been one of those guards, and maybe the one of the three that survived. But the royal guards had their own battle language, and that might be why he like speaks that kind of garbled language. It sounds very, very, very similar. So I think maybe that's who that guy is, which is kind of like a cool thing that they might, again, like go into more next season, because Ezra's back home. He's the one that has like a little bit of history with this guy.
Yeah.
So if he goes toe to toe with Enoch next season, we might get that little bit of like, he might take his helmet off or something and be like, you fucking hit me with a boulder and I hate you. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Textical, great name, says Ezra always loved cosplaying Imperial troopers. You said the same thing last night.
Yeah, so for the you non-Rebel fans, I mean, obviously he's not the first person to do that. Luke and Han do that in the original trilogy, and that's like a trope in Star Wars. But specifically Ezra, that's like his thing. He does that several times throughout Rebels, and he also gives really hilarious fake pseudonym names to people when he's like in disguise. Like he calls himself Jabba a bunch of times, and people just go with it. And then at one point, like he just goes by Lando Calrissian for a while. But like the best part is that he's just choosing other people's names. He's not even clever enough to make up something that sounds legit. Yeah.
BJ says, besides the samurai vibe, Ahsoka also gave the Lord of the Rings and Dune vibes. Dune in spaceship design and ring ship and shuttle. Okay. Well, it was interesting. I'm glad that the ring ship was meant to be attached to the Star Destroyer. I mean, that seemed kind of obvious.
Yeah. We talked about that very early on, and I was like, that's very obvious to me. Like and it also just tracks. And then the second that, when we were watching the episode together, when Thrawn's ship pulls up, and you see that for the first time, and it's all damaged, and then when you notice at the back, like the main thrusters are still not like active. Like they can have the ship floating or whatever, but it's not able to even like really take off into the atmosphere kind of thing. Then it was like that was 100% cemented for me right there. I was like, that's a docking station for that ship, because they can't even fly it home. Like they couldn't even fly it home if they were still in their galaxy. It's like that badly fucked up. So
yeah, and it's actually a very good look with the ring around the Star Destroyer.
Well, it looks so reminiscent of in the prequel trilogy, the Jedi ships with the little docking
with the
rings.
warp rings, or the hyper.
And
I'm thinking Star Trek warp rings.
So I'm rewatching all of the Star Wars live action shows with my girlfriend right now, when they're rebuilding, when Pelly and Mando are rebuilding or putting together with all the mods his new N1 Starfighter.
Yeah.
She mentions that too, that like it's for that era, like a starship not needing a docking ring to be able to jump into hyperspace was a big deal.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I was like, oh, it's cool they're bringing back like that design of those like docking rings too. On that scale is just so cool too. And every time it takes off, it like blasts everybody behind it like with a huge like electrical storm in space. That's fucking tight, dude. Yeah. Oh.
Sergeant Montgomery, I love Ahsoka. It brings Clone Wars and Rebels into live action. My favorite so far.
Yeah.
Let's see. Thrawn's uniform was nicely worn. Yeah, nice little mending job there. You think he'd have more uniforms though than one?
I think I saw a little scuff on like the top of his shoulder too that looked similar to here, but it's hard to tell from like most shots. I'd have to like really closely look at it, but I wonder what those are meant to indicate. Like some people are saying maybe that was a blaster hole and maybe he's been resurrected too, like maybe he was killed, but I don't know like who would have done that. Like Ezra was the only one with them in the Chimera, or to my knowledge, he was the only like rebel on board, and Ezra wouldn't have picked up a gun and shot Thrawn in that case. Like I don't think.
I could see a mutiny after the crew realized that they were in another goddamn universe.
True.
And the guy that shot him was in fact Enoch. The Night Sisters brought him back to life. Thrawn killed Enoch, and then as punishment, eternal punishment, maybe Enoch is in fact dead,
and he's a zombie slave kind of thing.
And now he's like a slave, like a dedicated henchman. That's not going to turn on him.
I like that.
So,
I like that.
I don't think that looks like a blaster mark though. That's
too
nice and neat and clean.
Yeah, but like I'm wondering what it is meant. Is it just meant to be like, oh, like he's not in shape anymore. He's a little bit tattered. Like he's losing who Thrawn is, or like what it is to be Thrawn. He's losing that in this other galaxy, and lost and whatever. Or was it from some sort of battle that we're gonna get referenced next season? Like maybe Ezra did something to him that he's really holding on to, and
could be. Yeah, speaking of Thrawn not being Thrawn, there was a few times in this where he was visibly agitated and or worried.
Yes.
Which is
yeah.
not like Thrawn. He's like
At all,
cold,
yeah.
calculating, like always in chart, always knows what's going on. And there's
Well-
a few times that the acting was just superb for him.
Well, the whole time, but yeah, it really shined in a few of those scenes when you see the little twitching on the, on the side of his face, and like where he's like, fuck, man, like. But I wanted to say too, I wanted to touch on like probably one of the coldest like things in Star Wars live action now is like what he said to her before they jetted off back home and just stranded them there, was, just saying like, just dropping the bomb like, yeah, I know who Anakin was, and I know who that motherfucker became too.
Yeah.
And I knew him when he was young, like you did. And also, I know that you've slipped towards becoming that yourself a few times, and I wonder if you'll ever slip again. See ya. Like, just what a cold-hearted bomb to drop on her, like one of the most chilling things ever in Star Wars, I think. And especially knowing the stakes of what he just did to her, leaving her behind there,
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, obviously we know our heroes are gonna get home, but they're gonna be stuck there for a while, I think.
And I gotta say, they did a good job, because by the end of it, I had completely fucking forgotten about Balin.
Yeah.
And his Padawan
And Shin,
chick.
yeah.
And then
we both were like, oh shit, oh yeah, oh Balin, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like she's gonna.
They did a great job with that.
Looks like she's gonna be the leader of that bandit crew.
Yeah.
And he is. Well, this is all gonna be you talking here, but that hand that he's on, the statue is pointing towards a far off mountain range. And you can see the little beacon.
Yeah, it's like a beacon of light sort of thing. Yeah.
So, and you had a thought about what the statues were. Well, not a thought. I think you know.
Okay, so the statues, for people who haven't watched the Clone Wars show, they're the Mortis Gods, which are again, Star Wars is so great with making things sort of familiar, even if they're unfamiliar. It's like a holy trinity of gods. Anybody can understand that concept. Most religions have a parallel to that. So it's a father figure, and then the daughter and the son. The father is the balance between the dark and the light sides of the Force. The son is the dark side, and the daughter is the light side, symbolically. In this small arc in the Clone Wars show, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and Anakin end up directly interacting with these gods, and the son actually kills Ahsoka, just touches her and she dies, and he the whole time he's trying desperately to corrupt Anakin, because he knows Anakin is the chosen one, and it's his goal now to corrupt Anakin to the dark side. So the father actually channels the daughter's life force into Ahsoka to bring her back, and then her what's left of her life force is kind of becomes Ahsoka's Morai owl. That's why her owl is so important, and why it was such a big notable moment in the at the end of the episode when she saw that owl. Her whole perspective changed. She knew that they were on the right path, because that's basically the light side of the Force telling her you're good. But basically whatever those statues are pointing to, obviously is directly linked with the Mortis Gods. I've been saying to Stuart for a couple weeks now that that's what I thought the sort of higher power here that he was looking for was going to be. And I think he's such an interesting character to bring to them, because he is one of the few characters we've ever seen in Star Wars that was actually able to use both the light and dark side of the Force and not be corrupted fully by the dark side. And it's going to be really interesting to see a character like that fight against being corrupted by the ultimate evil trying to corrupt you, So
Yeah.
That's really interesting, for sure.
Sternbot Alk says the lightsaber fights in Ahsoka were very low energy. Thinking of Rogue One or Mando season 2 with Luke, there was such wasted potential. Also, so many plot threads left dangling. I don't think Filoni's going to leave anything dangling. There's plans for those, but I agree with you about the lightsaber fights. About 80% of the ones in this show were very low energy. The last one with what's her name, Morgan, was really good.
Yeah,
it was pretty
a
intense.
great fight. Yeah,
but I find Rosario Dawson, she doesn't deflecting blaster bolts. She doesn't do it well.
Yeah,
she's just kind of like,
she's not very fluid with it.
Yeah, it doesn't quite look good.
No.
So yeah, I agree with you on that.
Some of it looked a little, and like, you know, like people are gonna meme about stuff and like, you know, nitpick at stuff. Like I laughed at the like rewatching the flashback clip and like when Anakin's running and like it's like, yeah, Hayden Christensen had a bit of a weird stumbly run there for a second, but like, yeah, you can nitpick at little stuff like that all you want, but like, for the most part, everybody played their characters so well. In the very beginning, you were really not a fan of how Ahsoka was being portrayed, but I think by the end, like, they kind of won you over, right? But is that not like a great testament to Dave Filoni's writing for that character? Like, she was literally introduced as the most annoying character ever in Star Wars, Jar Jar Binks included, and by the end of like 5 episodes later, you're like, I fucking love this character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's so great at that, you know, of like where we started in this show, you're kind of like annoyed as an Ahsoka fan, like, why is she acting like this? And then it's like, she's got a lot on her mind and a lot on her plate, and there's a big threat looming, and she's one of the only people that can actually deal with it, as we now see with how broken the New Republic is, and they can't get anything done, get anything approved, so...
Bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Paul Hitchcock says, I don't think their plot threads were left dangling. They just haven't been resolved yet.
Yeah.
But this series was never meant to be self-contained. It's leading to bigger things. Exactly.
Yeah.
Namely a movie and another season, or tie-ins with Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett. So
everything's interwoven. If we get another Book of Boba Fett season, heavily going to be interwoven with this. If we're, you know, next season of Mando, heavily going to be interwoven with this.
Especially now that Thrawn's back.
Yeah.
That's going to be a big thing.
And Ezra, what's he going to do right now in the galaxy other than train Jason? I think that's a really cool prospect for just moving forward. But we could see that in The Mandalorian, too. Like, we could see Din go and talk to Ezra because he's like, hey, could you like maybe help Grogu learn a few things, or like whatever, like maybe not like fully train him, but just like help him, like,
and Ezra would do that, I think. So you could have like the three of them, Mandalorian, Ezra, and Grogu learning Force stuff,
right, and
also learning Mandalorian stuff,
right.
So yeah, I like that. Hold on, I just gotta do something real quick. Turn that brightness up. That's better. All right. Let's see. Enoch was a remnant of the son from Star Wars CW episode Altar of Mortis. And who or what is calling Balin? Kind of already addressed that one. We're a little bit behind in the chat because sorry.
I keep droning on him. I apologize.
That's okay. BJ throws in $2. Thank you so much. $2 for season finale. Long live the Empire. There you go. Yeah, the overall opinion seems to be that it's the Mortis father calling Balin.
I don't think it's the father. I think it's the son, and I think it's going to be the son tricking him maybe into thinking it's the father. I think the father is going to be maybe like lying dormant or something, and it's going to be the son trying to corrupt him. Yeah.
Others say the mother who was cast out.
Oh, okay. So that's going into like shit that's not canon anymore. So like Abeloth would be her name, the mother. So if they want to canonize that, that's great, but they now would have to like explain a whole bunch of stuff to do that they wouldn't have to explain if they just make it the son or the father or whatever, right? Because they've already explained that in Clone Wars, right?
Yeah. And Paul Hitchcock says, Thrawn in Star Wars is Thanos. and it's going to be a journey to get his conflict resolved. That'll probably explain why none of these people are around during the sequels.
Yeah, and everybody has a reason to fight him as far as like our fan favorite characters so far. Like anybody that's Mandalorian, you know, has, you know, the Empire devastated their homeworld. They all have a reason to fight. So Bo-Katan, who's also gone toe-to-toe with Thrawn before as well.
Yeah.
And all of her Mandalorians, all the like cultist Mandalorians or whatever, because we know Mando's going to get tied into this somehow, and he's going to want to help them out. And so there's like all the characters we've met so far in all these live action shows are all going to have some sort of reason or some friend or connection that's going to drag them into helping with this Thrawn threat. So we know it's going to be like a big Avengers style thing.
Yeah. Which I'm cool with.
100%. Me too. I can't wait.
Yeah. Sergeant Montgomery says there will be no negotiations with the apprentice of Anakin Skywalker. Yeah. That was epic.
That was a cool line, man.
And then Thrawn, Eric says he loved when Thrawn says many Imperial officers have underestimated the rebels. Yeah. I think it was Jedi, though. Didn't he say many Imperial officers have underestimated the Jedi? Or a single Jedi?
Yeah, and I think he was referencing Ezra dragging him off to to this galaxy, right? Because I think the way he worded it was like something about a single feat of strength of one Jedi or something like that.
Terrence Child says Admiral Thrawn will have more enemies than allies when they find out what he's done with those witches.
Yeah.
Okay, go lay down.
But he's massively powerful now. And also, we don't know what those corpses are. Like, I don't think they're all stormtroopers. I think they're Dathomiri witches.
Yeah,
and they're gonna, like, I think, because what we saw with the stormtroopers is kind of just a throwaway thing, like, okay, like, they can be brought back a couple times, but they're rotting corpses. Like, they're, you know, they're only useful for so long kind of thing or whatever. I think, like, the actual, like, if you're a Night Sister or a Night Brother or Zabrak or whatever from Dathomir, if you have that, like, connection to this magic, when they bring you back, you, like, are you again, you know, like, you're not like a rotting zombie.
Yeah.
Or, like, there's different versions of it that we've seen, and there is versions where they are, or there is versions where they can just possess another person's body with their spirit and whatever. But I think you know, they're setting this up to be a way more like formidable thing. Like, this is not going to be like a zombie army. It's going to be like a real army that they're going to resurrect back to what it was. And it's going to be not to be trifled with if it's Night Sisters, because
I did like, it's something I didn't notice till I watched it like the third time, but when she resurrected the stormtroopers, they were a little bit zombie-like and shuffling at first, and just kind of like hoarding. But as it went on, they started running. They started like recovering a little bit more. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Which could represent that they were all zombies the whole time we've seen them on screen.
Yes.
And that, like, after a little while, they kind of go back to being, like, almost normal looking if you aren't seeing what's underneath the mask.
Well, you wouldn't want you wouldn't want them rotting underneath that armor. Cause But the green eye glow was awesome. I did like that. Nice little touch.
Yeah, that was cool.
Let's see. BJ says, I think the Thrawn's uniform is just moth-worn, just not Mon Mothma. Maybe one of her moth children. Oh my god. I love you guys. You guys are awesome. Mr. Captain 93 says, I don't think the witches are the somehow in that Palpatine Returns line. I mean, Thrawn would totally bring Palpy back. So you don't think that they are the somehow Palpatine Returns? That'd be interesting if that's part of it, but I don't think
know.
so.
I don't know if Thrawn has motive to bring Palpatine back. Why would he?
I wouldn't.
Everybody else in the entire Empire that's left has the utmost respect for him above all people in the Empire. Why the fuck would he want to bring back Palpatine and be second in command again?
Yeah.
Why would he not want to just lead the Empire? Also, like, yes, Palpatine's incredibly smart. He created this whole false war on both sides and all this stuff, and he's, like, very tactical as well. But, like, Thrawn is the tactician. Like, he's the smartest guy in the galaxy and all that kind of stuff. So, I think, like, a person like him wouldn't be like, yeah, let me bring back this other guy who's slightly less intelligent than me, but more powerful one-on-one than me, so that he can just take my job. You know, like, I don't think he has the motivation to bring Palpatine back. I don't think anything he's doing is going to lead towards that.
Yeah. Sergeant Montgomery says, thoughts on Balin wearing a Kyber crystal belt buckle. Whose is it? It's his.
I think it's his old one.
It's a green one. I think it's just his old one,
Yeah.
as a remnant, or like a memento kind of thing.
Or maybe it was his
Masters,
and they died in Order 66, or maybe because he's a little bit older and he was already like a general in the war, maybe they'll, like, fuck, this is why it sucks that Ray Stevenson's dead, because like,
such a great character.
And I mean, I don't want to say that like callously, like, obviously, because he was an awesome person too, but like, just from a writing perspective, like, man, they could have done so much. Like, they could have been like, he was in love with some other Jedi, and like they had this forbidden love that no one knew about, like Anakin, and sort of parallel him like that, because they would have been similar in age, and to be like, oh, that's her Kyber crystal, or even his Kyber crystal, or whatever you want to do with it, and be like, yeah, he had this like forbidden love, or maybe even say like Shin was his daughter from that forbidden love, and then they hid her away until Order 66 happened, the wife died, and he took her Kyber crystal, and then he made his own orange, because he was like, I'm not Jedi, I'm not Sith, like, this changed me too much, and whatever. Yeah, that would be cool to explore, but unfortunately, unless they recast him, I don't know how they're going to do anything like that.
Yeah.
Really, they're kind of left backed into the corner of, like, having him immediately go into you know, the Mortis Gods and become like one with the Force or something like that. Like, I don't really know how they're gonna use him with without recasting, and I don't want to see anyone else play that character. He just nailed it.
Yeah,
like,
I agree. Yeah, I always got the inclination that it was just his former Kyber crystal, his old lightsaber.
Yeah.
So
I think that's all it's gonna end up being, but.
Blue Shirt Picard says, great imagery, but the writing and overall story was just lame, in my opinion. I disagree. As we've said, it might seem that way now, but I think Filoni is kind of good at that, though. And I think once we know everything, like we get another season of Mandalorian, or the movie that they're talking about doing, and it's all wrapped up, I think you're gonna see the genius in it. I didn't have any issues with the story, honestly. It kind of sucks that we couldn't get like 12 episodes instead of 8. That's all. Like,
to be honest, like, they're doing exactly what, if you can see what they're building towards, like, they're doing exactly what any Star Wars fan wants them to do. Like, this is the golden time period to work in Star Wars, after the end of the original trilogy, but before anything got messed up in the eyes of any fans with the sequels. They can do as much like world building and stuff as they want, but there is this like looming thing of like, the First Order is coming to destroy all this at some point. Like, whatever they're building up with Mandalore, like, how are they going to explain that? Did they just get so strong that the First Order left them alone, or are they going to get obliterated again? Like, everything can only be like so important if it's going to get wrapped up in that way. So anybody that's worried about like what's going on with Thrawn and all this other loose ends and stuff, like, I promise you it's going to get wrapped up, because Thrawn is going to have to die at the end of this Dave Filoni movie that they're doing or whatever, and it's going to be, you know, this big epic thing and whatever, because how could he not? Like, what, Thrawn just is not mentioned in the sequel trilogy, and he's like, would have been obviously one of the most important, pivotal people
somehow
operating
Thrawn
the First Order. Exactly. Somehow Thrawn wasn't mentioned. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Or Grogu, or any of these characters. So obviously, if they're not retconning them, all of these characters have to stay in this little bubble, which means as beautiful as all these stories are, they are going to get wrapped up with a nice, tight little bow, right?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Paul Hitchcock says, I think the witches will be the thing that undoes Thrawn. After all, Palpatine is the one who destroyed the witches and the mother Talzin. And I think that once they learn that, they'll turn on Thrawn.
Yeah. I think they're both, like, aimed to betray each other. Like, I think they're both, like, you know, very teetering on this line of, like,
especially when he said
another.
target the temple and fire.
They were not.
Did you see the look on their
that.
faces?
Yeah,
I thought that was going to be more of a
about
problem at the time, but
that's going to be a problem next season.
Yeah,
like
that's their sacred.
We're going to see like growing tension between them because that was the first thing that sparked them to be like, whoa, this guy, like, he only cares about the ends, not the means. And as, like, evil as these bitches are, they have, like, lines in the sand, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, destroying their ancient temple.
Yeah, that was a little harsh.
Yeah. Like, destroying it. It's gone.
General Grievous, I really wish the episode had been 20 minutes longer and Balin felt like an afterthought. And with Rey's death, the cliffhanger stings.
Yeah.
I don't know. Shin may pull an Anakin on the Raiders like Sand People.
I don't think so. I think it was setting her up to lead them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, like, I want to see that. I don't want to see her go in and kill all of them. I want to see who these people are and what they're about. Some of them have, like, this shaped helmet, like, sort of the shape of the Zepho head. And I'm like, maybe because the Zepho runes are all over the temples and stuff that we saw on this planet, it's obvious the Zepho were here at some point. It'd be cool if that's, like, just like the ancient, like, you know, thousands and thousands of years ago they, like, prayed to them or whatever, and now, like, that's the symbol of you being, like, the leader or whatever, or, like, the highest up dude is having this helmet shape. I want to see more about that culture and more about this planet and how those people interact with the naughty little guys, the little crab dudes, and,
I think
like,
it's Nodi.
Nodi.
I don't want to say naughty. They're naughty little bastards.
Oh, naughty, yeah. But Noti or Naughty or whatever they're called. But yeah, I want to see how all these things interact and, like, how this little ecosystem works. And it's kind of like someone said before, like Mad Max. Like, it's very cool atmosphere there. I want to see more of it, you know?
Yeah. General Grievous also goes on to say, also the head of the daughter statue was cut off.
Yes. Oh, yes. I brought that up earlier. Yeah. Because Ahsoka... I forgot to mention that in my little, like, spiel about it. Because Ahsoka had, like, the daughter's life force transferred into her. I think that's what that was symbolic of.
Yeah.
That the daughter is no longer, like, on that, like, plane anymore. She's now, like, Ahsoka's owl. Like, she's sort of, like, more tethered to the, like, mortal realm, essentially. But the son and the father are still very much active. And I think that's what that was meant to symbolize.
Yeah, I think so too.
But they're all very weathered to show that, like, nobody has spoken with them in a long time since Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Ahsoka did, which would have been well over 30 years ago at this point.
Yeah. BJ says, I wonder if Ezra, Hera, and Thrawn will be in Mando season 4 like Bo-Katan was in season 3. Wouldn't be surprised. Honestly, would not be surprised to see these characters coming in and out of the other series. So.
Yeah, I fully expect to see a lot of little crossovers. And like, we've already been seeing it the whole time. Like, go back and watch. Like I said, I'm just rewatching all the series right now. Like, all the little quick little nods. Like, we meet Bo-Katan in Mando. We meet Ahsoka in Mando. We meet Morgan Elsbeth in Mando. And then we see all those characters again in Boba Fett, and then again in Mando season 3. And yeah, everybody's going to bounce back and forth.
Yeah. Mr. Captain 93 says, was the episode name a nod to the Chronicles of Narnia? That's exactly what I thought. The Jedi, the Witch, and the Warlord is what it was called.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that's a cool little nod.
Which is a doorway to another dimension, which could be what Balin was seeking.
Yeah.
And there's that beacon on the top of the mountain.
The door to the world between worlds, maybe, or maybe even some sort of other higher power. I had mentioned in our conversation before this that I think that they're going to reveal next season that, like, the Mortis Gods actually created the world between worlds as this nexus point, because they obviously have these big statues of them in this other galaxy. Like, they're obviously in multiple galaxies and stuff. They needed this nexus point to be able to, like, exist everywhere all at once, maybe. I don't know. But I think that's what we're going to see, is, like, that they're very heavily tied to that place. And that's what's calling to him. So, yeah, it would be a good reference, too.
Yeah. Eric Martin says the New Republic Senate probably won't believe Ezra's stories and stay asleep. Yeah, the New Republic Senate's kind of stupid, so...
It does all seem very whimsical, though. And it's one dude's, like, first-hand account that's been, like, marooned on a wasteland planet for 10 years, and, like, people might think he's gone nuts, or, you know what I mean? And he just showed up back, and it's, like, conveniently no one else made it home. Like, how did you get back here? Why are you in Stormtrooper garb? Like...
That's what I thought, too, yeah. What did you do during those 11 years? Were you part of Thrawn's army?
There's too many things that could be used to undermine him by, like, people that just want to turn a blind eye. Like, I don't think that Senator was supposed to be, like, set up to be, like, an evil, like Empire remnant or whatever. Like, I think people are just scared to, like, admit that this war didn't end. That, like, that something else, that the Empire could reform, and that there could be this looming threat. Like, people want to just believe that it's peacetime and that everybody's safe and everybody's prosperous. Like, yeah, I don't know.
BJ says, actually, Balin's journey reminds me a lot of Cybok in Star Trek V. What does God need with a starship? Exactly, yes. Eric says, Ahsoka and Sabine seem awfully chill about being left behind. Well, as he was saying, that's because they know that that's the good side of the Force is showing them that that's where they need to be. Ahsoka even says as much. This is where we need to be.
Yeah.
Because she saw the little owl thing, and then Anakin's there. And I think, as we talked about right before this live, I think Sabine sensed Anakin's presence. Didn't know what it was.
Didn't see him, didn't know what it was, but she sensed a light side of the Force presence there, like a good presence.
And as you said, she wasn't scared. She didn't seem put off by it. So
she was like, oh, it's all good. My eyes were just playing tricks on me.
Yeah, it's very much like we need to be here right now.
Yeah.
So...
And we discussed too, we both don't think Ahsoka even saw him.
I don't
clearly. I think she might have saw a little shimmer of him, but he was standing far enough away on purpose that he wasn't trying to interact with her. He was just maybe showing her that he's there watching over her, and she fully felt his presence. And Sabine wouldn't have known what that feels like. She's never met him. So as soon as Ahsoka felt it, she's like, that's Anakin, right?
Yeah. BJ says, I love Deanna Lee in Santo as Morgan Elsbeth. Sad to see her gone, perhaps. Well, yeah, that's the thing. She could totally not be gone, even though she was on top of the thing when it collapsed. But it's happened before in movies.
Yeah,
even though
no Night
actually,
Sisters left to bring her back, though.
Actually, the other night, that's not true, because the Night Sister on the ship was like, Morgan is dead.
Yeah.
So she sensed it. So.
She sensed she was gone. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But it's sci-fi. Anything can happen.
Sci-fi fantasy, too.
Yeah.
We don't even try and, like, adhere to actual physics rules. Like, in this show, Ahsoka, like, jumps in space and does, like, an arc. It's like, we're not even trying, dude. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah.
Just enjoy.
General Grievous, the Night Troopers remind me of the Death Troopers on Dathomir, caused by the Blackwing virus in Star Wars Galaxies MMO.
I actually don't know that reference.
I don't either. Eric Martin says, so are zombie stormtroopers better shots than normal stormtroopers? Probably.
Yeah, or at least just as good. Like, I mean, you might as well be dead if you're that bad of a shot. Yeah,
I've been seeing a lot of videos on Facebook lately from Jedi Survivor.
Yeah.
Where you're playing as the character and the guy will like stop and he's hanging from something and the stormtroopers are like shooting at him and they just keep missing.
Yeah.
When he's not moving. Yeah. It's pretty hilarious.
I think also notably, like, when they were resurrected, the ones that were still holding their guns did start firing them back.
Yeah.
But the ones that had dropped them didn't seem bothered to pick them up.
Yeah.
Like they were like kind of like zombies that were still able to control all their bodily functions, but their core, like, they were just like getter, you know, like they didn't care like what the means were.
Yeah.
It was like, if I don't have my gun in my hand, like I'm not stopping to grab it. I'm just getting Ahsoka, Sabine, and Ezra. Like, it was just like go time. It was a very weird like take on zombies. Like, you can still hold and fire your weapon, but like it's not important enough to bend down and grab it. Like, you'd rather just maul the person. Like, it was a very weird thing.
I just love how, like, stormtroopers, they're supposed to have this, the armor's supposed to be really cool, like really good, right? Like, you read about it in the, you know, the cutaway books and behind the scenes, like what the plasticoid armor or whatever the hell it's called, one shot knocks them down every time. And these guys, the zombies, were getting shot repeatedly, one in the head, which is the one that picked up Sabine, and you could see like half his helmet was gone, and you could see his like face. They're more powerful now, so I'm wondering if they were even dead beforehand, or if they were still just regular stormtroopers.
Yeah, I don't know, and I hope that gets explored next season, and we get kind of more of like the ground rules of how this resurrection stuff happens, because as I've said to you probably 20 times in the last few weeks, like, I want fucking Maul back, dude, and Asajj Ventress would be cool too, and like some other people, but like getting back some really cool characters like that have ties to Dathomir and stuff. Like, I want to see like what the rules of this are. Can they go to Tatooine and find Maul's body and resurrect him? Is that a possibility? Like, I'd love to know what the you know, where the lines are, or if they do that, is he going to be like zombie Maul, or can they actually bring back Maul? You know, like I want to see like what they can do with that, because there's so many doors that can be opened now.
Remember when Merrick was Maul?
Yeah, right. I was hoping.
Yeah, I know. General Grievous says there was a Legends EU comic where a dark side cult resurrected Darth Maul because they wanted Maul to be the apprentice instead of Vader. Okay, didn't know that. Melted Copper says, if Star Wars is stuck in the past, bring on Shadows of the Empire and Prince Caesar, one of the first expanded universe toys. Oh, I remember those. Yeah, Prince Caesar. Ugh, you don't remember those, do you? He's too young. I gotta start hanging out with people my own age.
Sorry, dude.
He goes on to say, for example, Andor, another great show, but he dies on a beach. So logically, where is this going? Why or how can I be emotionally invested on a dog that gets put down? Oh my God.
It's a harsh take, but like, I get what you're saying.
It's valid,
but that's kind of what I was trying to say with like what they're doing with all this stuff. Like, how amazing are these stories they're telling? But the overall stakes can't be that high. You know what I mean? Like, these all have to be very self-contained, like, side stories. You know what I mean? Or it doesn't make sense, like, with the, you know, timeline and that sort of thing. So I think they're doing a great job of that. And they're drip feeding us little things here and there of like, hey, like, I know we have some plot holes coming up. Here's a little shovel. You know?
Yeah.
Here's a couple scoops of dirt. That's it. Not, you know, we're not going to fill it in all the way yet, but...
Yeah. Eventually we'll have a nice plant there that you can watch grow. But until then...
Look at what happened with the prequels, though. People fucking hated them when they came out. Yeah. And there was all these plot holes in them that, like, rightfully there are plot holes in those movies. But then now, since then, there's been the Clone Wars show and, you know, all these other things that have filled in a lot of those gaps. And then now they're even brilliantly doing, like, Tales of the Jedi and filling in even the little tiny crevices and stuff. And it's like, okay, I have nothing to fucking complain about anymore.
But you gotta wonder if that was all planned from the beginning, or if it was just like, oh, that was bad writing, we need to fix that.
Right, but even if that's the case, like, they did such a great job of it that I have faith that Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau can, and Bryce Dallas Howard and all these other people that are...
I love Bryce Dallas Howard.
Right.
For more than just her direction.
But all these people that are diehard Star Wars fans that really care, like, they can fill in those gaps too. And no, they're not gonna undo like those movies being bad. Like they're never gonna not be the suckiest movies in Star Wars, but like they can undo some of the things that make them like, oh, that's awful, you know? And like if they can do that, I'll be happy. That's all I want. You know, I just want them to be like watchable. That's it. I don't want to fucking love them. I just want to like not hate them.
Yeah.
You know?
BJ says, I think that they will have to recast Ray Stevenson's Lord Balin. He's too central to the coming plot. Yes. But like I said, it is sci-fi. There are a lot of ways to get around that. Either he could give himself over and become like some kind of hooded ghost of some sort. Or
Well, the son...
They still have to recast him then, though. But yeah,
the son is like, if they were to bring the son into live action, like how he looks, he's like white-faced with like red like lines down his face and shit. Like if they were to have Balin like sort of merge with him or whatever and take on those characteristics, they could recast him as anyone that looks somewhat similar to Ray Stevenson and then do him up in that sort of makeup, get rid of the beard, do the white face paint and the lines on the face and shit, and then you'd be good, right?
But he will have to be recast in that instance.
Yeah, and it does. And again, like I don't want to see anybody else play him, but if they immediately transition him into this other version of the character, then I'd be okay with somebody else playing that, because then it's not gonna have all the same like mannerisms and same things that he made the character as, you know?
Yeah.
I don't want to see someone like try and like replicate that.
Yeah. Peter Lukaku is here and he says, just chiming in, who's the mofo with the hat? Ha ha ha. It's my buddy Ryan.
Been on twice now?
Yeah, he has. And he's probably going to be on more. He's an expert in Star Wars, in my opinion, so he's good to have on here.
Tell this guy if you want to see us cover anything about Loki. I'm trying to convince him to do maybe not a weekly after show. That might be a little too much, but like just, you know, like a couple check-ins with you guys if you guys are Marvel fans. Put it in the chat. Tell him you want to see Marvel content.
Chat. Melted Copper says, if Lucas special edition the classics, Disney should special edition the prequels with modern tech, all that green screen, they would be entirely different movies. I don't think they need it, and they won't do that, honestly. I did like Anthony Daniels saying he enjoyed coming back for Ahsoka. It was fun to hang out with the nice cast and crew and to be on the volume. Because he must have loved that, considering all the prequels were filmed with just green around him.
Yeah.
That would drive me fucking insane.
Yeah.
So the volume would be epic to actually see what you're supposed to be seeing.
Mentioning the volume quickly, I want to say that these last few episodes have not felt... Like, I know some people complain that, like, the volume, when they shoot shots in the volume, especially fight scenes and stuff, it often feels, like, very closed in. And, like, even though it's meant to feel, like, open, it kind of doesn't fully, like, trick your mind into that feeling.
Yeah.
These last few episodes have not at all felt like that in any way, shape, or form. Like, if you told me that, like, all of this was shot on site, like, in, you know, on these cliff faces and shit like that, I would 100% believe you. Like, these last few episodes have been... Anything shot on Peridia has been very, very beautifully, like, aesthetically well done.
It's funny, because watching the entire series, I did not once think about the volume.
I did a little bit in the forest fight scenes and, like, in amongst the trees and stuff, because, like, that... I don't know. I drew a lot as a kid, and like when I was young, and like you, like if you know a lot about like perspective and stuff, like sometimes the trees don't like look quite right because you're like, is that in the fucking foreground or the background? Little shots like that, it did like there were times where it did like stick out to me, a couple short moments in the beginning of the show, but by the time we've gotten to these open beautiful landscape shots and stuff, it's just looked so good.
I think a lot of that was filmed on location, though.
Yeah.
Because it looks like the exact same place they filmed a lot of Andor as well.
True.
So
True.
BJ says, I think that the First Order never controlled the galaxy after the fall of the New Republic. In the second Rian Johnson film, no one outside the Resistance fleet seems to care about the First Order.
They spend a lot of those movies in the Outer Rim, though.
Yeah.
Where, again, no one's ever had control of the Outer Rim. The Old Republic didn't have the Republic didn't, the New Republic didn't, the Empire didn't, the First Order didn't. No one has ever... It's just too much reach. Like, when you have a centralized government, like, by the time you get all the way out to the planets that are, like, scattered in the Outer Rim, like, there's just no chance to, like, actually control that.
Nobody cares about you shithole Hicks.
And that's true too. Like, there's less there to care about. There's less resources. There's less, you know,
there might be resources.
Less population too. Like, there's less population density on these planets.
There might be resources, but the logistics of getting those resources back to where they needed is just not worth the time.
Right.
Yeah. Fleet Paw throws in $2. Good to see if Fleet Paw is here. He says, "Never fear, Fleet Paw is here. Sorry I'm late, guys." You can fire Fleet Paw. Go ahead.
Get out of here, man. You're fired.
There, you heard that.
I'm taking your job.
Sergeant Montgomery puts in $2. A twist. Shin becomes Mara Jade. Drum roll, please.
And then George Lucas comes back and buys Lucasfilms back and then just burns everything to the ground. No!
General Grievous says, actually, I was going to mention there is a tie-in to Jedi Fallen Order in Episode 6, where the Zepho runes on the temple there in the tomb to the dark side, Zepho's sage Kujet on Dathomar.
Yeah, so the inscription says, praise Kujet.
Okay.
Or it says something about praise Kujet, and then it's like long live... something. I don't know. I'd have to look at it again or whatever, but yes, there was a direct reference if you translate it. However, it's been pointed out by a couple people too that, like, in the Senate Council room, that, like, stonework in the background also has those runes on it. So it might just be like the set designers liked the look of those runes and were like, hey, let's scatter these amongst the show. Or it could have a deeper connection that we'll see later on. Like, we don't know, but...
It's funny, though. Remember the episode where she finds the orb?
Yeah.
And she goes down, and she had to, like, look at the things and then get the little orb thing. I said to a few people at the time, holy shit, this is just like all the video games I've been playing. Because you play, like, Fallen Order or Jedi Survivor, and you got those balls in the wall that you gotta, like, use the Force to open the doors. It's the same kind of, like, look.
And they're not shy about referencing the those two video games either. Like, if you, again, I know I keep bringing this up, but I'm rewatching all the shows, and, like, when they're building, Peli and him are building the N1 Starfighter, BD1 is there the whole time, and there's that little Easter egg scene where he's, like, trying to get him to look at the right spot and hold the flashlight in the right spot, and it's like anybody who's played the game has struggled with this for a second or two.
Yeah.
And that was a really neat little, like, hey, if you played the game, you'll like this. But they're not shy about, like, hey, this is canon. Like, this is in Star Wars. This happened.
I would like to see those characters actually get live actioned.
Please. Please. And the guy who plays Cal Kestis,
it's
his
Cal
name
Kestis.
is escaping me. He's fantastic. I love the show Shameless, and he's amazing in that. Any of you nerds out there that watched Gotham, fuck, is he incredible.
That's right.
He's the Joker. He's incredible. He's incredible. He's a fantastic actor and very passionate about his role as this character. I would love to see him in live action.
And even Starkiller, the actor looks exactly like the character.
Yeah.
I mean,
I just replayed the first Force Unleashed game, and, like,
they're so good.
It's such a good game, dude.
Yeah,
I'm like, I wish the second one was on Nintendo, because I would buy it right away. But
second one's not as long, but that's another discussion.
I gotta get it on Steam though.
Plus, I got all the DLCs for the second one.
Yeah,
like fighting Leia on Endor. It's like, what?
Yeah, I gotta replay that now too. I gotta buy it on Steam or something.
Paul Hitchcock says, I think Ahsoka and Sabine might make their way back to the main galaxy via the world between worlds. As we were saying, it could be that's what Balin is seeking, because you get that, you have access to any place, any time, and as he's been saying since the beginning,
he wants to break this cycle.
Power
and exchange.
He even says go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
So it would be cool if he
Those
actually...
are very telling things to say.
I wonder if he wants... It would be cool if he goes back and actually is the one that starts the Jedi Order and does it correctly.
Or this Acolyte movie that's coming out.
Is that a movie now or not a show?
I thought it was... Oh, maybe I'm wrong. Is it a show?
I thought it was a show, but it could
Either way, whatever that project is set thousands and thousands of years ago, at like before the Jedi Order was properly formed. What if he ties in with that? What if he goes back in time and ends up, one of these pivotal characters that sets up the events that as we know them, right?
That'd be awesome.
We don't know how this whole time travel thing works with it though, because as we've seen it before, like Ezra wanted to save Kanan, and then Ahsoka was like, don't break the universe. Yeah. Yeah. So we don't know like how it works when somebody does do what you're not supposed to do, so I'd love to see that.
The Star Wars galaxy melts away and it's actually just our galaxy and we're just boring ass people.
Yeah.
General Grievous says the runes on the Peridia temple say praise Khajet, ruler.
Yeah.
Of all may his reign last for all, then it gets cut off.
Yeah, for all, and then we're assuming all time or all.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Melted Copper, where is Prince Caesar? Shadows of the Empire doesn't get enough respect, but Thrawn is here. General Grievous, Senator Xiono is in the sequel era Star Wars Resistance.
Yeah.
This is almost like an origin story for him.
Yeah, and that's why I was saying like he was a good choice, but also a bad one at the same time, because like it did kind of make him seem like he was like with the Empire or whatever, but that was obviously not what they were trying to do. Mm-hmm. So like it was a good choice to choose him as a character, because it's like, yeah, he later on and he's known as being like a hard ass and like not really happy with all the decisions that his son, the main character, makes in Resistance. So like it does set him up to like become that character later, but also kind of a weird choice, because then it also does kind of give you that like undertone that he's sort of working with somebody, or that he's turning a blind eye on purpose.
Yeah.
Not just out of like arrogance or like wanting it to not be real. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. My buddy Matt Boardman is here. Welcome, Matt. And he says, I love that they've made Anakin a part of the series. It's giving him some redemption that he didn't get from the movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as we were saying, we think he might be a big part of season 2.
Yeah.
Because we saw his Force Ghost, and he might have more to teach Snips.
Yeah, I think we're going to see more training from him. I said to Stuart, I think for the two reasons that kind of like solidify that for me is, one, he presented himself to her there, but in that moment chose not to speak to her. I think he's got more to say to her later. I don't think he's just going to be like, hey, I'm watching over you or whatever. I think he's, going to talk to her again. And also with the recorded messages he left her.
Yeah, there's like 20
that like
or so.
She had rewatched them and whatever, and refreshed herself on all of the lessons that he could possibly teach her without interacting with her again as a Force Ghost. So I think we're going to see that. I think we're going to see more. I think he's going to get to finish her training. She's stranded out here. What else is she going to fucking do? Yeah. And then also now she's got to finish training Sabine, and how is she going to do that effectively and quickly enough to have Sabine proficient enough to go, back home and win this little war without learning the last few lessons Anakin has to teach her, right? So
yeah. General Grievous says, I don't think they were dead before. Remember in the last episode, Thrawn told the Night Sisters he would need their magic once more, and at the beginning of this episode he asks, are these the volunteers? He did. That was and they know the consequences. They're aware.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was like.
That's a good point.
It is a very good point.
Always with the good points.
Well, he's General Grievous.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I would expect that you'd at least be one of the most learned people in the chat on the Star Wars chats.
Yeah. Eric Martin says the last trilogy really brought down the hate for the prequels. They've been outclassed.
Yeah.
At least the Last Jedi did. Yeah. Sergeant Montgomery throws in $2 and says recast Balin into a new character like Lord Vader.
Yeah, see, that's what I was saying before. Like, if they transition him right away into something else, whether it be, you make him look like the Son, or make him, some sort of hooded or masked figure or whatever, or have him like, how Palpatine went from looking like Ian McDermott to looking like a fucking melted puddle of ice cream. He could undergo some sort of transformation like that, and I'd be cool with that, and then have him be played by another character. And then get someone super talented at mimicking voices like Sam Witwer to make him, to dub the voice or whatever and make it sound like him if you want to or whatever. But if you want to give him that, like, little legacy role sort of thing.
Well, Matt Boardman says Liv Schreiber would be a great recast for Rey. Don't know who that is offhand. Recognize the last name.
I'll have to look it up. And yeah, I know the name. I'd have to look them up and see, like, what the...
And General Grievous goes on to say they can pull a Don Cheadle War Machine switcheroo and never even address it. No,
I don't.
Please don't do that.
I don't want that just out of respect.
I hate that. Oh, I hate when that happens, man.
And it's different when it's like there's some drama on set because an actor is being a douche or
they're
wants
holding
more
out for
money
more
or whatever.
money, yeah.
But like, fuck, man, like the guy died, and he's such a respected like person and like such a talented actor. Like, I don't want them to do that.
Yeah, and they created such a great character for him too.
Oh, and he really like I'm not trying to take away from any of the writers or whatever, but I guarantee you he blew all of them away.
Yeah.
Like he definitely brought more to this role than anybody was expecting with this character, and I think they were expecting an interesting character.
Yeah. Matt Boardman says they did do some changes to Phantom Menace. They replaced Puppet Yoda with CG Yoda from episodes 2 and 3. Yes, and thank Christ for that. That Puppet Yoda was atrocious. Eric Martin says, what about the older knight from Game of Thrones for Rey's part? The older knight from Game of Thrones. Not sure who you mean specifically. Fleetpaw says, which one is Eric? There were a lot of them. Which one, Eric? There were a lot of them. Yeah. General Grievous said the only shot that stood out as the volume in this episode was when Ahsoka and Sabine stood on the starship talking before the TIE fighters attacked.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting at before. Like, there's been these little flash moments where it's like, okay, this feels a little closed in or whatever, but for the most part, I've not noticed it at all in this show.
Yeah.
So they're either getting smarter with when they utilize it and when they don't, or
they're just getting better
at using it. Yeah. So I don't know what the case is, but either way, props to them, because what a great piece of tech, and we're seeing it create these. Like, they wouldn't have the ability to make half of these shots with the budget that they're doing without, we'd have a lot of like really great like scoping shots and panning shots and stuff just cut from these shows if not for that. So
the one shot that was in the volume that I found out was in the volume that really blew me away was in Mandalorian, like season 1, where he's walking through like a cave almost, and he gets attacked by the dogs.
Oh yeah.
Like, that was in the volume. I would never have guessed that in 1,000 years. That looked fantastic. So
yeah, that's awesome that they have access to that.
Fleetpaw says, see, it's a good thing that you don't work here, Ryan. Only Stuart can fire me, which he does several times a day. But he always hires me back. Let's see.
I don't have firing privileges, don't worry.
But I can give him firing privileges. That's the
No, I don't want that responsibility. You haven't even given me a title, but you'll give me firing responsibilities?
You're my Padawan. That's your title.
I'm the Padawan. Okay, I like that. I'm the Star Wars guy you bring in when you need a little, extra information. Or
yeah, you're my Star Trek Padawan, which means you know nothing. So, yeah. Matt Boardman says, oh, hold on. Sergeant Montgomery, the little nuances within the Star Wars universe. I wish the writers of Star Trek had the same quality of nerdmanship. I mean, some of them do.
Prodigy writers.
Yeah.
Lower Decks writers.
Aaron Waltke, my buddy, the lead writer on Prodigy. He knows his shit. So does Mike McMahon.
Writers.
Mike McMahon, showrunner. Yep, 100%. This guy knows, and he's not even a Star Trek fan.
I don't dislike Star Trek. I don't want to, I like Star Trek. I just haven't delved fully into it. And I'm thinking about it, to be honest.
Ooh.
Thinking about it.
That'd be a long road.
Well, I could start with Prodigy because you keep giving it so much hype, and a lot of other people do, and there's only one season, right?
Well, there's 2 seasons.
There's 2 seasons?
The second season has not been released yet, though. They haven't found a place to
okay.
stream it because Paramount Plus nixed it.
Okay.
But it's finished.
Okay, so we will get it at some point in theory.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I could start with that, and then there's some other smaller stuff that I could start out with and dip my toes in the water.
Yeah, there's a few small things that start you with, but if you're gonna watch it, you gotta need to watch it the way it was released from
True.
TOS on, because otherwise,
True.
I hate telling people chronologically and shit because it just doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
sorry.
not like how Marvel and like Star Wars have worked out, where like you can go back and like watch.
Yeah, but would
like,
you tell
timeline.
would you tell somebody to start with the Phantom Menace? No, always watch them in release order. Star Wars Empire, you get the Darth Vader reveal.
That's
Return
a
of the
loaded
Jedi.
question, because if it's your girlfriend or something, yeah, you start timeline order like, yeah, you want to watch, you know, she's never heard of these characters or whatever. You start out like
It's just
breaks her heart watching Anakin turn to the dark side, and then you're like, oh,
No.
she's a Vader character. No, I do agree with you though. For the most part, you'd want to watch.
It's
the
got to be
original
release order.
series or the
Almost-
original trilogy first. Yeah.
almost every time.
Yeah.
Let's see. How would you feel about a show based on Knights of the Old Republic?
I would love it. That's one of the best time eras in Star Wars, and it's been so underutilized. Like, everybody loves the Old Republic era. I think they could kind of do no wrong doing that. But I will say this, hold that for later. Like, everybody's gonna love that show or movie or whatever you do with that. Hold on to that. Fucking try and do some new stuff. Why I'm so excited about them ditching Ahsoka and Sabine in this new galaxy is because it's a new galaxy. Let's see them go off-world next season and explore some of the other planets in this galaxy. Let's see some other cultures. Let's see other, tech and other ships and other droids and other, stuff that are totally outside of the box that we've never seen before. I want to see new stuff in Star Wars. And then, once we've had our fill of new stories, go back and tell me a story in the Old Republic era. I'd love that.
You got a snoring pug.
Yeah. I'm probably here.
Precious. Oh, they can hear. BJ says, only having watched the first 2 sequel films, I could see the First Order fleet as being too small to control much. More like moving bands of pirates, directly controlling only where they are at. So I could see much of the galaxy being left alone if they kept their heads down or were very well armed, perhaps like rebuilt Mandalore, making the First Order wary of attacking for a little gain. Yeah, I don't know. I never got the sense that the First Order was any kind of threat like the Empire was, honestly.
They also do go into not enough like anything in those movies to like flesh anything out properly, but they do like show and mention that in stark difference to how the Empire operated, the First Order was very much reliant on all the politicians and stuff playing their part, but keep in mind, by this point, we've gone through so many changes in power, and all these politicians that have always had the money and have never had, like, they just keep changing allegiances and whatever. Like, at this point, they don't give a shit. They're like, yeah, fucking, these people are keeping us all making money, like, cool, whatever.
Yeah.
So it was a symbiotic relationship, or at least it was, like, shown, or, like, implied to be. But I think that's where the First Order had a little bit more power, was like all the trade organizations and like all the commodities and everything were all like controlled because they had the politicians in their pockets.
Yeah.
Whereas the Senate was kind of like a show for the Empire. Like, it wasn't real. They didn't actually do anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Paul Hitchcock says, General Grievous says, knowing how Star Wars mirrors a lot of Greek tragedies, oh my god, it would probably be him that sets everything into motion, goes back and sets everything in motion in the first place, if he did go back in time in a twist of irony. That would be very cool. And he could be that because he mentioned that the Jedi Order was not corrupt.
That they had lost.
He liked, as he said, he liked the idea of the Jedi Order,
not the execution.
Exactly, but I think that's thousands of years.
Yeah,
I think the initial idea was perfect, and
what if
over time
had it
exactly, and over time it just got not corrupted, but like a game of telephone.
Yeah.
More it goes on, the more it changes, little things get tweaked,
and I think that's what I was saying before about like, if they do some sort of time travel thing where he goes back, it has to be a closed loop thing. And if they do, use it as like a little Easter egg reference in something else, it's going to have to be something that's in that time period. So some like Acolyte, or if they do, like someone was saying, Old Republic show or something like that, where they could, timeline logically show that happen from a different perspective or give more context to it or whatever. But if he does do any sort of time travel thing, it's going to have to be a closed loop thing, like where he went back in time and he was the one that did this and sparked all of this setting in motion or whatever, right? So
did you have your toes curled over on that foot? Thank Christ. That looked fucking weird. One long toe and like no other toe. Like he's a fucking alien.
Like the big toe candies.
I gotta like show them because that's just freaky. I'm like, he's an alien from Star Wars. That's why he knows so much about it. Good God, man. I looked down and saw that and I was like, the fuck is that? All right.
I secretly have the same feet as the Bigfoot candies. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Those are great, by the way.
They are great. I gotta go to what's it called, Bulk Barn, get a bag.
Sergeant Montgomery says, my dog's name is Snips. She keeps perking up to watch when y'all say her name. Oh. Hey, Snips.
Hi, Snips.
Is Snips a boy or a girl? If it's a boy, how'd you get your name, Snips? Are you snipped?
Was it after a trip to the VET?
The vet. Who wants to go outside? I shouldn't do that. Oh, everybody's eyes are open.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Sergeant Montgomery. General Grievous, I think it's possible that we may end up finding out that Dave Filoni had Anakin in the series to address where he was in the sequels. Perhaps the second season, the sun is unleashed and he has to take his place as a Mortis God to hold the balance. That's interesting.
That would be really cool. And that does raise an interesting point of like, why would Anakin never have presented himself as a Force ghost to like Kylo to stop him from going down this path of becoming like he did?
Yeah.
Or like to Rey to be like, hey, you're taking up the mantle of like what.
But you heard his voice.
Son did.
You heard his voice in The Rise of Skywalker during the.
Yeah, but you heard fucking everybody's voice.
Exactly.
You heard Ahsoka, everybody else's voice too.
Just saying, he was present enough that he could like chime in.
Right. Yeah. But it does raise an interesting point of like, there should have been, but again, you can just chalk that up to like poor storytelling and writing. But there should have been some moment where Hayden Christensen, Force Ghost of Anakin, showed up to somebody in that trilogy.
Yeah.
So explaining why he didn't, could be, that he had to. Actually, I talked to you about that weeks ago about how like, because the son had like so badly wanted to corrupt Anakin, I kind of think that like Anakin as his Force ghost, now that he's found this balance in the Force that like we saw in the flashbacks, that he could just kind of turn back and forth between showing himself as Anakin, and then Anakin as, with the Sith eyes and whatever. I think him being able to do that like kind of shows that he's found that like perfect balance, like the prophecy foretold that he would like bring balance to the Force. He's found balance in the Force. He's become like the Father, and maybe yes, that he will have to actually become the Father and take up that role as a Mortis God to keep Balin, who becomes the son, from destroying everything, right? And maybe we'll even see Ahsoka have to become the daughter and give up everything and be like, sorry, Sabine, I can't finish training you, or like whatever, right? have
can
that
see
big
that.
heartfelt
I can
moment
see
or
that.
whatever, right? And then that be a big send off for Sabine, and now she's far enough along in her training and finally a little bit proficient with the Force and whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
That's awesome, actually. Do you hear the theory that Anakin was so powerful with midichlorians that if he hadn't got his legs and arm cut off and reduced the amount of midichlorians in his body, that he would have become way more powerful than Darth Vader ever was?
Oh yeah.
Like, he could have crushed, like, planets and shit.
Also, Palpatine specifically built his armor and his suit as Vader to be as, like, encumbersome and
And
difficult
uncomfortable.
to wear and uncomfortable and painful to wear as possible. And he used as outdated technology as he possibly could. He made it, like, so that he was as, like, fucking nerfed as possible. Like, as absolutely nerfed.
But to
as
keep
he
him
possibly
angry
could be.
and miserable.
And fueling everything with his hatred and his anger. Yeah.
But I like the idea, too, that if his suit malfunctions, he can use the Force to help himself breathe for a limited amount of time. Like, there's cool shit there. But we're getting off track. That's not Ahsoka.
I mean, it is. It is. That was her master.
Yeah.
We're not too far off.
General Grievous says, I love the use of practical effects in this show whenever possible. They had a behind the scenes where they made the shuttle for Ahsoka for lots of the space shots. Yes, the practical model of that ship is awesome, and I love practical models in anything. I think they're way better than CG, honestly. So
Also, and just props to the costume department and everything.
Pardon the pun. Props.
Props to the costume department, though. Like, everybody looked great. I've mentioned to Stuart a couple times that I think Hera's the contact lenses they chose for Hera are kind of awful. Just don't show, like, depth in it. Like, it's just a solid color. Like, that's what's off-putting to me about it. It's not that the color is wrong or, like, that doesn't even matter to me. It's just that it doesn't look like a real retina or whatever, or
iris,
cornea or iris or whatever the fuck the term is.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look like a real eye, and every time there's a close-up shot of her, it's very, like, it takes you out of the moment kind of thing. But outside of that, I have no complaints.
Ezra's look good. I like his
Ezra's
look
great.
Blue eyes.
Ahsoka's look great. I haven't even thought about it the whole series that she's wearing them. Like, everybody's contact lens color change looks fantastic. Hera's not so much, and it does, like, kind of distract me from those scenes, kind of. But, like, outside of that, everything's been perfect. Her and the rest of her costume is perfect too.
Yeah, I just wish that she had more of the horns, like the...
No, not Ahsoka. I was talking about Hera.
Oh, Hera. Yeah. Okay.
But yes, Ahsoka, we've had that conversation too. I think it's kind of like there's been so many different depictions of her at different stages of her
I know, but she looks
life
so sexy
and, like,
with the big ones.
I do agree. I wish they were more pronounced.
Yeah.
And I think that would have tracked more too, because I think it's like they were growing over time as she's been depicted before. But it would have been a lot for Rosario Dawson to have anything even more large and encumbersome on her head.
Especially with, like, lightsaber wielding.
Yeah, and, like, there would definitely be shots where she'd, do some, like, shit like this, and where they would have to be like, that was cutting it too close, like, take that again, or whatever. And it'd just be annoying. Like, I'm sure that was the reason, it's like, let's just make this as less obtrusive as possible. But.
Yeah. Fleet Pass says, don't worry, Ryan, hang out with Stuart enough and you won't just delve into Star Trek, you'll get thrown headfirst into it. And you'll like it, or you'll get agonized.
I know I'll like it. That's why I'm scared, guys. There's
so
much. There's so much I gotta watch, and I gotta...
You will be assimilated.
Yeah, I will be assimilated. I get that reference, the Borg.
Yeah. General Grievous says, Ahsoka Season 2, a.k.a. Strange New Worlds, LOL. Yeah. Yeah. Paul Hitchcock. I like the viewing order, only for original trilogy and prequel trilogy. Episodes 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, and then 6. For people who've never seen them. So yeah, Star Wars, Empire, then Phantom Menace, and all the prequels, and then go to Return of the Jedi. Because that doesn't give away the I'm your father.
Yeah, true. That's cool. That's a cool way of doing it.
Yeah. Fleet Paw, sell that screenshot on OnlyFans, LOL.
Of my foot?
I guess. Only aliens. General Grievous. I saw them in release order only because I was born before 1, 2, and 3 came out. But for myself, with storyline structure, even though I'm nostalgic over the original trilogy thematically, I like chronological order. I don't.
When I see
Especially introducing it to someone new. Because
that's the thing.
You got to sit through the Phantom Menace, and you're like, oh, for fuck's sake.
As me rewatching it, like, I will only rewatch it in timeline order. Because, like, I know everything.
Yeah,
I want to see it play out in time.
That's different.
But, yeah, I do agree, like, showing someone Star Wars. Although it's kind of rare to meet someone that's not seen the original trilogy. Like,
You'd be
I know
surprised.
a lot of people that haven't seen the prequels. I know fuckloads of people that haven't seen any of the Disney ones. I don't know a lot of people that haven't seen the original trilogy. Like, not a lot of people miss that. Those were big movies and have been for decades and never stopped being relevant. So
I know, but there are people out there.
Oh, I know.
And it surprises me to this day. Like, you haven't seen fucking Star Wars?
I know.
What the fuck's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Let's see. Balin, I miss the idea of it, but not the truth, the weakness. There was no future there. Yes. That's why I wanted to go back to the beginning, he said.
Yeah.
Let's see. He's one of those mutants from Total Recall. I'm sorry I did that. Anyway. Open your mind, Quaid. Open your mind. General Grievous says, for me, I would be more invested than just going in, seeing the end, and knowing how everything is going to end. I like surprise. I don't I'm not one for I don't even mind spoilers. Just because something's a spoiler doesn't mean it's not. It's the journey, how it got there, that is important to me. So even
I'm the same way.
Even if I get a spoiler, it's like, that's cool. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Like, you can tell me, like, the major plot points of, like, a movie I haven't seen, and it's not going to deter me from watching that movie, like, at all. You can even describe, like, exactly what happens in a scene or whatever, and when it happens, I'm not going to be like, oh, here's this scene I gotta watch now that I know what's gonna happen. And I'm gonna be like, oh, there's this fucking scene that somebody was so excited to tell me about it. It's gonna be great.
And then you watch the thing and it's not in it. You're like, bastard.
Yeah. Yeah. Or they got the line wrong or whatever. You're like, fucking, God damn it.
Sergeant Montgomery says, or Balin's apprentice goes back in time and the Prime Jedi established the order on the planet Arto 25,000 years ago. Yeah, what's she gonna do? Like, how's she gonna play into season 2? That's in
Shin?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was saying before. Like, I want to see more about this culture of these, like, Mad Max style people that just live in this wasteland kind of thing. And it was clear by her body language and, like, what she was doing. Like, this is this symbol of, like, leading a regiment, right?
Yeah.
And, like, holding your sword above you like that. So I think, you know, that that was very clear to me that she's gonna, like, lead these people. Also, keep in mind, she was literally offered like Ahsoka's hand, like, yo, we will help you, dude. Like, your master just walked away from you.
Yeah.
Like, and he's off doing some other shit. Thrawn doesn't give a fuck about you. The Night Sisters think you stink like Jedi. Like, no one gives a shit about you here. Like, we'll help you, dude. Like, we're Force users. We'll help you out. There's 3 people here that can help you. And she ran. And then Ahsoka, or Sabine and Ezra both went to chase her, and Ahsoka held them back. Yeah. She consciously made the decision, like, no, fuck the good side. I'm going dark. And I think we're going to see her drift. And I think
she might even get she might even be like, Balin didn't quite have the darkness.
No.
She's going to get it, I think, because Balin just said
Balin held her from becoming dark.
Yeah,
I think.
And he's also like,
he's not around now.
Go do your thing.
Yeah.
You're good now.
Yeah.
That's the last lesson, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that's going to piss her
and
off.
What
And the fact that she's stranded now.
And what did he tell her? Patience impatience in for victory will ensure defeat.
Yeah.
So what does she do? When she gets away, she runs away. She doesn't go, hide in the bushes and go to try and attack them 1 against 3. She goes and fucking raises an army. She's going to these other people that she's more powerful than, and they've watched her cut down a bunch of them, right? and she's like, hey, let's, there's these 3 dudes I want taken out. Help me out.
Yeah.
Well,
my buddy Matt Boardman, who I'm going to see at the end of the month because I'm going to LA, he says you can do things with CG models that you can't do with physical models. The problem is you have too many people doing bad CG models. He's a visual effects guy. He worked on like, Top Gun Maverick, and he's worked on a lot of Marvel stuff.
Wow,
so,
awesome.
Yeah. You're right.
Thank you then, because I love Marvel.
Yeah. You're right, Matt, but I do love the physical models. I mean, it's something you have after the fact as well. Yes, you have the CG model on your computer and you can use it for other stuff, but to be able to go to an auction and buy like a screen used physical model or something, that
is a cool thing.
That's damn cool. Yeah. Not putting down visual effects, Matt. Don't worry.
We just want one shot with a physical model, so that there's one.
Yeah.
In existence somewhere. In a glass case.
There you go. General Grievous says, wait, what if Dave Filoni, who worked on The Last Airbender, mirrored the plot of the moon spirit that saved the princess as a child, and she sacrificed herself to save the moon spirit later on?
He's drawn a lot of inspiration from a lot of stuff, so I mean,
yeah, he's definitely, you can see it.
He's not apologetic about it either. He's very like this is, this series heavily inspired by Lord of the Rings. Look at everybody's character arcs and like how she literally went from wearing gray clothing to having like a enlightenment moment wearing white after like it was kind of implied she died there, right? Or that she was like on the brink of death about to drown.
Yes.
And Anakin was like, you can live now, go and get some air in your lungs kind of thing, right? Yeah. So yeah, she literally had the same story arc this season as Gandalf had. He's very open about using his influences in his work.
Yeah.
And it shows because they're good influences and it makes great content.
Terrence Child says, I'm glad that Palpatine did that to Darth Vader. Darth Vader got everything he deserved, the child-killing monster. Jesus
I mean, you're not wrong. Fun fact for anyone who doesn't know, the reason why that kid in that shot when he like Master Anakin, there's too many of them, what do we do?
Yeah.
The reason why the kid jumps like that is because Hayden Christensen actually went boo and scared the fuck out of the kid. And the kid, like, I'm sure, like, was probably, like, upset afterwards or whatever, but he actually, like, startled the child.
Good acting.
Yeah. So that was a real reaction when the kid, like, when he draws the lightsaber and the kid, like, his eyes go all wide and he steps back. That's real. He really scared the kid.
That's great.
Yeah.
We're almost done. Almost done for the night. General Grievous, the main reason they gave Ahsoka montrails, or head tails, being shorter was done for the stunt double they used for fight scenes. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, we figured it was some sort of practical reason.
Yeah.
Because as far as they've ever shown her in animation, they do like get larger and larger and larger over time. And even as we've been shown, like I think we've been shown like a clip of her like as like an old lady or whatever, and they were like even more pronounced or whatever. So yeah, I mean. That's what we figured. Probably something to do with.
But she looks so good in Rebels. When she's walking and she's got. Oh my god.
Rebels is the best stylization of her for sure.
Yeah.
She had like a more like slender face and like just the way she looked was a lot. Yeah, that was the best design of her for sure. Oh, little dot.
Neil Hammersmith. Hail Kaon. Who do you think will replace Ray Stevenson? No idea. Hopefully nobody. Hopefully they find a way to work it into the story where they don't have to replace him with somebody that's supposed to be the same person. Unless something altering happens.
We don't know. They could have like a shit ton of stock footage of him from this season. And like,
They could.
He's such a compelling character and such an amazing actor. I'm sure they had so many extra takes of stuff that just didn't make the cutting floor. And like, I'm sure they can do something where like, they've got like at least one episode's worth of, usable footage of him to not have to CG on some other dude's face or like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I'm sure they've got enough to like, and keep in mind, these are some incredible writers that we're talking about here that that can easily write themselves out of this hole.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't know how the hell they're gonna do it. You know, I consider myself a decently smart guy and pretty knowledgeable about this shit. I have no clue what they're gonna do, but
General Grievous says a few notations have about this episode. When Ezra and Ahsoka saw the green mist resurrect the trooper, they acted like they didn't know what it was. Night Sister magic.
yeah, that threw me a bit too.
They both had run-ins, yeah.
Yeah, Sabine was straight up possessed by the Night Sisters at one point in Rebels.
And Ahsoka's... No, who...
And there was green mist when that happened too.
Did Ahsoka kill Balin?
Merrick, yeah.
Merrick, sorry.
Yeah, she killed Merrick.
Yeah,
she
so
gave
she
him
saw the
killing
green
strike
mist.
and she saw the green mist come out.
Yeah.
I also thought it was weird. I liked how that whole shot was done from the perspective of like, oh, that was like a really cool like they were very zombie-esque, and it was like very well done from that perspective, but like, yeah, didn't really make sense for like the reactions of all the characters. Also, this is like dark side magic. Like, this is the Force being used right beside them. Like, you'd think someone like Ahsoka, who's incredibly powerful with the Force, would have felt that before she saw it, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's like some like necromancy, dark magic, dark side of the Force shit going on 2 feet away from you. Like, you'd think she would have like felt something eerie before turning around and seeing it, right?
And it's more evidence that this troopers might not have been zombies the whole time, because Ezra's been there for 11 years.
Yeah.
He must have seen them a few times.
Yeah.
But for him to say, no, this is new,
Yeah.
kind of shocked me a little bit. I didn't
Yeah.
expect that. But
And we don't know how long Thrawn's been with the Night Sisters. Maybe it took him half of this time to even find them, and you know, maybe they were like asleep in some sort of stasis or some shit, and he had to wake them up, or like, we don't know. But again, this will all get explored next season, I promise, guys.
yeah.
Dave Filoni doesn't leave anything like not wrapped up, except like at the end of Rebels, like a little bit, but like we knew what was going to, like, forward, and at that time, before all these other live action shows got made, like, there wasn't anything to explain more at the end of that show.
General Grievous says also you can tell Dave Filoni pushed the boundaries with corporate with this episode. Its first live action decapitation amputation we've seen in Disney Star Wars. They had some restrictions on it. You didn't see the decapitation though. You saw him swing, then the pillar was in the way, and then the helmet. So you didn't even see it. That was the stipulation. Plus it was a zombie. Plus there was no blood. Just like the
Also, we have seen like in the Mandalorian season 2.5 in the Mando episode of Boba Fett, he cuts that motherfucker in half with the Darksaber, and you see him cut him in half. It then cuts away from when he decapitates the dude and puts his bag in the head.
Yeah.
At the very beginning of that episode, when he's after the bounty in the like meat shop or whatever.
Yeah.
And like the meat packing place or whatever, he cuts that dude in half fully in view on camera. Like, you see the dude's two halves, like, and the table fall apart and like all that.
Yeah.
He slams him down on the table and cuts him in half. There are definitely some like halvings and some kind of brutal swings of the lightsaber, but yeah, they're definitely toning it down a lot. Like, we should have had some people lose some hands at this point. Like, somebody should have lost a hand at this point. We've seen how many seasons of these shows, like, and especially with 3 Jedi being present in this fucking season, like, somebody should have lost a hand, dude. Ezra should have lost a hand. Sabine should have lost a hand. Ahsoka should have lost a hand. One of them should have.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I agree with that. Paul Hitchcock says thoughts on the idea that the first Force users were from this new galaxy who came to the established galaxy thousands of years earlier, similar to the wizards in Lord of the Rings. Totally plausible, and like we've talked, like my idea was that maybe Yoda, his species is from this other galaxy. That's why there's not a lot of them. No one knows their species name or where they're from. It would be cool, and as you said, Grogu in Mandalorian, when they were in hyperspace, you could see the Purgle. He could see the Purgle traveling.
And he was like reaching out to them.
Yeah.
He seemed very like happy to see them.
Yeah, it would be very cool if they were from.
I also like elaborated on that too, and
Yes,
to
you
say
did.
that like this planet of Peridia is like a wasteland. Like if that's where Yoda's species is from, that would make sense why they're very small in stature, because there's not a lot of accessible food, and why they're very carnivorous.
They look like
Because
the
if
little
you're-
hermit crab
If you're
people.
from right, if you're from a harsh, inhospitable environment, you typically, if you're going to be a predator, you're going to be a smaller one, right? If there's not a lot of food to eat,
Yeah.
but you're going to be willing to eat anything that moves because food is scarce, and that's also going to result in you being a small statured animal. So that would make sense if that's where they came from. And then I was also thinking maybe the Purgle go on like a migratory path, and maybe this galaxy is where they go to die, and they sort of like leave behind the elderly, and they like sort of die here, and then they continue on their migration path. Maybe another galaxy is where they go to have their offspring, you know, and maybe they're on this loop, and that's how Grogu's species or Yoda's species or whatever came to our galaxy, is because they followed them on this trail with the Purgle. I think that would make sense because Grogu has some sort of connection to all animals. We saw him like tame the Rancor and like all this other stuff. But it seems like he has a very specific connection to the Purgle, or like it seemed to me at least, like he was very interested in them.
And as you said, you thought that the Purgles might be like the ones going to the other galaxy at the same
I
time.
also think that's the same, because they've said now that this show, and to clear up from when I was here last, they've said now, I think, that this show is running concurrently with season 3 of The Mandalorian. So that would make sense to me, that if that shot in season 3 of Mando, where they see the Purgle, if that was when Ahsoka was in that Purgle's mouth, and that's them leaving this galaxy and like on their way out
which is
the
awesome.
galaxy, which is very cool.
At the end of season 3 of Mando, he's got his homestead. He's sitting there with Grogu. He's all like, "Yeah," and guess what happens? Thrawn comes.
Thrawn
back.
shows up. Yeah.
Somehow Thrawn returns.
Somehow Thrawn returns. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be great. All right, I think we're gonna call it there, though, guys. Thank you to everybody that's here. Thank you to Ryan for joining us. Well, nobody said that they wanted to hear more from you when you asked for them to put it in the chat about Loki.
No one?
No one fucking commented. No
So
one
it's
wants
because
Ryan
it's only
back.
the Star Wars fans here right now. That's all. That's why.
Would you like him back for more Star Wars stuff? Let me know.
Anything Star Wars, I'm up for sure.
Yeah.
So if you're doing something Star Wars,
Anytime
I'm
there's
always
new
happy
Star
to
Wars,
be here.
absolutely.
Yeah. What's the next Star Wars project, actually?
I have
That's
no
on
idea.
the lineup.
I expected you to know.
I'd have to look it up. I know, like, Skeleton Crew is on the horizon. I know, because that's going to tie in with this movie as well that Filoni's setting up. And all this Thrawn storyline and stuff. Yeah, I'd have to look it up, actually. What's next? I think we'll probably get another season of Bad Batch next.
Fleet Paw says, "Well, what's his channel? I can plug him." You don't have a channel.
I don't. No, I should.
He wants to start a podcast. He was been planning it for a while now.
Yeah.
So once that happens, we'll let you know.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are saying they want you back
Okay.
for Star Wars stuff, and one said for Loki.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Anyway,
and Dot wants me back too, right?
in summary, I thought Ahsoka as a series was fantastic. Had a few ups and downs, as they all do, but overall it was very enjoyable for me. Really appreciated it. And the last episode I thought was very fun and very action-packed. And a cliffhanger that didn't annoy me.
Yeah.
It was very well established. Like, I don't know what it was with the ending. I expected to be, like, mad, but I wasn't. I was like, huh. I think it was the ending with Sabine and Ahsoka kind of being, like, at peace where they are.
Yep.
That's what put me at peace, and it was like, that's a great place to leave it. So
I thought the finale was everything I was expecting it to be, where I wanted to expect to know what was going to happen, and anywhere where they could have thrown me for a loop and done something interesting that I didn't think I was going to see, they did, and I was very pleasantly surprised. And just to touch on again, you and I both got to the end of that episode and we're like, oh fuck, Balin and Shin. Like, they did such a good job of enticing me with all this other storyline that I didn't even remember that my favorite character in this show is off gallivanting around some giant statues and not present in this entire episode. So I thought they did a great job with the finale.
Yeah.
And as a whole, and the whole show was so great.
And Fleetpot says, "You can come back. This is the way I have spoken."
This is the way
I just realized that when he put that quote, I'm like, fuck. I got a Mandalorian helmet. I got a Boba Fett helmet in the other room.
Yeah,
we should have started live with
that.
those.
Yeah. Next time.
Yeah. And I got lightsabers galore, too. It's a great way to leave it. So thank you guys for watching. Have yourselves a great night, and we'll see you later. Live long and prosper. May the Force be with you. Bye, guys.